Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's October 23rd. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And looking at the daily, you can see we had a big sell-off, and then we recovered more than half of it. It looks like um, we traded down here, but we couldn't close below that 21 EMA. That's what that middle purple line is there. And we didn't quite close back above the midline on the green channel, but we really resolved a lot of that overbought situation, and we were going sideways here. So it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see a failed breakout and prices trade back into the range and maybe higher again. We'll see what tomorrow brings, but we could still trade down some more. But it wouldn't surprise me if we don't turn up and trade back up again. Uh, but there it is. That's what it looks like on the daily chart. We still haven't quite got that measured move yet, starting from the lows here. I think we got really close if you started from here. Still, even from there, we haven't quite made a measured move. So we'll go back to here and we'll continue to look for that to possibly uh, meet that measured move. But anyway, let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart. Take a look at it there. You can see it's a big down day with a late afternoon recovery of about half of, maybe not quite half, but close. But anyway, let's flip over there and take a look. Okay, here it is on the daily chart. You can see it was really all downhill till early afternoon, and then we rallied out of there. It looks like we had an overshoot on this chart to me, and rallied out of there and took about 40% of it back. It looks like anyway. Um, we had this big gap. We could not fill it this morning. Notice we opened here and we tried multiple times to go higher, failed. Tried one more time and then they gave it up and off it went. I would say that the news, there were two medium items today. They both showed up on the chart. They both were the right color and they turned orange at the right time and gave me my notification. So the indicator does appear to be working. I loaded it first thing this morning. When I opened up my charts, it did not populate it, so I right-clicked. Just right-click on your chart and click on that Reload Ninja script right there, and it'll reload that data. And you don't want to reload it any more than you have to, because what's happening is, if you haven't heard me talk about it yet, is it's not the indicator that's not working, it's the data provider limiting the number of times you can ping their server to download that file. And if you do it more than maybe twice in a 5-minute period, you'll get limited for an hour or so, and then you can't download it at all. And if you do it a bunch of times, you get banned for a day or two. So, and they may eventually ban you permanently. I guess they're getting overwhelmed with people downloading this file, so they're trying to limit your number of uses per day. They're not saying you can't come get the data. They admit it's there and they let you get it, but you're limited to the number of times you can come get it. And that's pretty much what the issue is. So why it doesn't load up when you open the chart all the time, I'm not sure. But don't immediately when your chart opens, don't right click and click on the reload Ninja script. Wait a couple, let your chart run a few minutes. Anytime I've done that, I let it run for 5 minutes and then right click. It always loads right up. I haven't had any problem. And it actually at first loaded up tomorrow's stuff too, but within a few minutes later it dropped off. So I guess I think this thing is designed to read it on at the end of close of every bar. So it probably loaded up tomorrow's stuff too, but then when whenever bar was printing closed, it rereads it again and it drops it off. So it ended up dropping those two extra ones off and left the correct ones on there. So I do think it's working properly. I'm going to test it the rest of this week, and if it's still looking good by next week, I'll probably go ahead and make it available to the in the meantime, you can use the one that's already there. This one pretty much works the same. I used it to come up with the coding for this one. And so this one just mirrors it for the most part, except this one says Pat's News and um, Pat's Economic News instead of whatever the other one said. So that's about the only real difference. And some of the settings are a little bit different. I fixed hours where we could where it wouldn't fall off until for up to 10 hours. So you could set it for up to 10 hours. That way it would still be here at the end of each afternoon when I do the chart. Otherwise it would have normally fallen off and it would say no news up there. But you can see that these were medium, so I didn't put them on the chart. It didn't much matter anyway, but you need to be aware of them. So anyway, let's zoom in here. Let me show you real quickly how I did these measured legs. In my opinion, this was all one move down, and then you got this big correction here. And then, so I measured that leg and looked for a measured move on that, which brought me down to here. And then we started this next leg. And so what I did was come back and where this leg started and ended. And somebody will probably say, well, how'd you know to go from there? But that's where you get your break and you're moved to a new low, and then you get a two-legged correction, which is usually the center of the pattern. So you would assume that was this next leg. Measure that and look for that leg again. And if you actually took that stem off, I think you get almost perfect measured move. But I usually measure the stems anyway, although sometimes the measured moves don't include the stems. Seem to be some part of it being overdone, but that's close enough from here to there to call that almost a perfect measured move. And we do get an overshoot there, which leads to the complete reversal. So hopefully that makes sense on those measured moves. You got one leg and then the correction and second leg, and then I measured that second leg once the third leg started, and I think that second leg went from here to actually here because and that's where we were looking for the first leg to go to anyway, and that's almost as close as this one. So and then you get the two-legged correction, which is where your second leg would start on this by measuring this one. So anyway, I hope that's clear. And this one, the end of it is here because you got your break and moved to a new low, and then it corrected enough to call it a two-legged correction. So that was where this one ended right here. So hopefully that's clear. This one's not, usually it's not that convoluted, but this one's a little different today. Anyway, 7 o'clock comes right in here where we're just kind of, you get a break right here, and your green's working up, and then you get a break of it, and then two legs up to a new high, and so that is a this is basically, you can count that as a double bottom, so that's a first entry, second entry, or it's just a failed break out of these highs up here. Either way, I like going short there on a retest to the low, and it takes off, and it just works sideways from there. And you got to assume what they were doing was trying to go back after the open here and fill that gap, but they couldn't do it. And prices just, when they finally gave up, the prices just kind of collapsed after that. But anyway, we make a new low here. And we end up in this range. And notice you got a triple test right here. 1, 2, 3. And a nice signal bar. It's also a second entry long. Not that that matters. We don't really look for that in a tight range like this. But I like going long there. As long as you got room to scalp out and get your scalp, you're good on that one. And then we tested this one up here again. We don't quite have a break and a new high yet. And then we attempt it here, and it does make the new high. And so I like going short on that one. I didn't like this one. The signal bar is not perfect, but it's just like your first little, maybe a break outside. I think it's just too early here to go short, especially when your high was here the original time, because I originally had this up here, but when we bounced down here the next few times, I lowered it. So, because you get most of your touches along here. So anyway, I like going short right there. And then I think I did talk about this triple test. And then you get another test down here with a 8-tick bar, go long, easy scalp. That's all you're doing on a tight range like this. You're just trying to get a scalp. Unless there's a failed breakout, and then maybe you try to get a runner on that. But generally in the tight range, just scalp out. We turned down again here, but we didn't quite get back to the line. And the big thing really was that it just looks congested, and there's not much room to the low here. So there is a lower high here, but it's an inside bar. You got to be careful trading a breakout because it could fail on you, and so I don't see anything I'd want to take there. And of course, the bounce comes here. You get your close outside, but no setup. You do get a first entry and a second entry, but I just think that signal bar is too neutral. I just don't think it's safe to take a trade there. And then we make a little double bottom here. Notice you got this channel working now. You get your close outside, a couple of swings to a new low, and you make a double bottom. So this is like a higher low. You do have to wait for, let me zoom in here a little more. You do need to wait for this bar to close. I wouldn't trade it on the engulfing bar. And it's a fairly big bar, so, but it's still a nice setup. So you go long one tick above. That's a nice move there. You don't really get any other opportunities here, and then we're turning down again. Notice you're moving up, close outside, a couple swings to a new high, then you turn down. You could have looked at this as a second entry, but the signal bar is no good, so it doesn't matter. And then you got this channel working down. You get a close outside, move to a new low. It comes back, and it gives you a 1, 2, 3 triple test there. It's not an ideal setup, but it's a really bearish bar. It's rather big, but maybe you go short there. It turns out to be a great move, but it's not the best setup I've ever seen. And of course, we bounce off the low side of the channel. We're working up, close outside, and new high. Notice that this is basically, you could treat this like a double bottom. It's a higher low, but you still treat it like a double bottom. So you get a first entry and then a second entry, and then you move to the new high. And it's right off the key entry point. Very bearish reversal type bar. You do have your break in new high. I'm going to go short there. I did want to talk about this. Somebody sent me this today, and they went long here, trading this as a higher low. First of all, it's congested. Second of all, you got this channel coming down, and you got the first break of it, so the odds are prices are looking to go lower, not higher. And so there's no reason to go long there. That's not a higher low anyway, because your higher low is right here. And so that's just a first entry out of congestion, kind of in no man's land when we're looking for prices to retest these lows here. I mean, this has been a pretty good move down, so you're going to get a retest of these lows most likely. And that comes right here. Notice we make a new low, and we try to go lower 3 times and then reverse. I don't really like going long there. You don't have a break of this trend line yet, so it could turn back down. So you don't really want to go long there. You do end up getting a break with a first entry and then a second entry right here. I marked that green, but it's real close. You could argue for it to be red. There's a lower high here, but by that time it looks a little sideways and congested. And we end up making another high here. And I don't see any reason to try to attempt either one of those. If you were going to go short, this would be the one. I made it green, but it's close. It's close. You could argue for it to be red. But generally, you need a lower high. And by the time you do, it just looks too congested to me. So, and you can see this probably got enough to get your scalp anyway. But you can see what happens. It ends up making another run up and making a new high, and then it turns down. And unfortunately, there's no way to enter any of these. These are all first entries all the way down. Now, there is a clue we're going lower. Notice how each swing high is lower and lower. That means we're probably going to break lower. And we're looking for the measured move down here anyway. And is that what we're looking? Oh yeah, we're looking for the measured move right in here anyway. So, but we bounce off the low side, run up, you get a close outside, and you move to a new high. You wouldn't have this trend line yet, so you're just playing a first entry, second entry, very bearish bar, but you're just playing a second entry based on this micro trend line playing out. No lower high. This is the lower high, and it's moved too far. Rest of it's just first entries all the way down the bottom. Then you're working sideways, and you get this breakout that fails, and then you get a higher low, and you're way away from the EMA. Maybe you take that. Basically, you're trading a failed breakout of this little range here. So if it breaks higher, you got plenty of room to get out. So I like that one. It just runs. Basically, what it does, it runs back to the other side again, and you get a chance to go short. I like that one right off the the EMA and the midline, and it's what, 5 ticks, very low risk, and that one moves on down, makes a new low, corrects, and you don't get a chance to go short on this one either. There is a second entry there, but that's your signal bar. It's very bullish. Unfortunately, there just weren't a lot of chances to enter on this big, strong downtrend. And we actually get what I think is an overshoot down here, which leads to an immediate reversal. Sometimes you don't get a retest on an overshoot, which we didn't here. But notice we come up. We finally get a close outside here, and there's a second entry long as well. Notice a new high, first entry, and then it was a second entry when this green bar went past the high of this red bar right here. But I don't think you want to trade that on the second entry. But when you get the 1, 2, 3 triple test, I think it's worthwhile trading that as a triple test. It's the first break of this channel. There's not much room back to the highs, but you had this overshoot. So I think that's, with that being a triple test, I think that's okay. And of course, it just takes off, and then you're working sideways again. Notice you get your close outside a new high, then a lower high, but that's really congested. There's not room to get out before these lows. Then you make a lower high, and it's 4 ticks, and you got just enough room to get out. Then you get another one. I think it's 5 ticks, just enough room to get out. This one breaks out and closes outside. So does this one, so I don't think you want to take either of those. And this one, not a very good signal bar. But then we bounce off the lows. You clearly got at least a triple test, so I like going long there. It's not a perfect signal bar. Does it close in the upper 1/3? I think it does. So I think you could, I made it green anyway. That would be a call on your personal preferences, how you felt about it. Then we get a close outside new high, and then you pull back. First entry, pull back. So when it breaks above that bar, it's a second entry long. Nice signal bar, triple test, second entry. I don't think you want to trade that on the second entry alone, but with a triple test, maybe you can even argue it's a quadruple test. I like that entry. Quick, easy move, and that takes you into 230. So, not a bad trading day. For such a strong downtrend, though, there weren't a lot of entries late morning, early afternoon. You just had to kind of be patient, and that's the way it is sometimes. So, if you had a hard time finding trades after, from 11:30 on, don't beat yourself up there, because there weren't many trades. So, after 11:30, there were 1, 2, 3, 4 that were blue or red, and 1, 2, 3, 4 that were green, and most of you probably should stay away from the green ones anyway. So there it is. Not much else we can say about today. So I'm going to try to wrap it up and get out of here. Call it a day. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow and wrap up our week. But I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.